Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey. Of all the books with comics in my collection, this is for sure one of the most beautiful ones. It was recommended in one of Comic Crack's early videos years ago. The Adventures of Jodelle, which is the title in itself, a play obviously on The Adventures of Tintin, the other Belgian classic. I want to talk about the artist behind The Adventures of Jodelle today, Guy Peellaert. Pierre Bratier wrote the story, or the script for the story here. And this is not just an amazing book because of its comic, but how it is made with heaps of bonus material, putting some context to this amazing story, which is really outstanding. And some folks say that it's the only, along with Pravda, I will talk about later on, the only real pop art comic that ever was. Rereading it again, I was surprised actually how straightforward the plot actually is. So ancient Rome still exists under the kind leadership of Augustus here, in the striped short trousers. And we have a lot of the benefits of modern culture, like cool vehicles, even if they are sometimes propelled with horses. And we have helicopters, we have laser guns, we have Coca-Cola, very important for the hip atmosphere of the time. And we have the chief of the femme spy chief here, some kind of Amanda Waller. So it feels a bit of Suicide Squad mixed up with James Bond maybe, and all comparisons eventually fail totally when you look at the story here. This book here is totally fun, especially if you look at all the details. Cross-dressing Christian girls. The most expensive slaughter in history, and I'm pretty sure that this guy here should be recognized as some important guy of that period. I don't know. So you have these radical line works and these very flat coloring, bright colors, and these are already the two main pillars on which this comic world is built. And it's totally decorative. Despite you see a lot of nudity, actually the women have taken over this world of ancient or modern Rome. And they fight a conspiracy of the proconsules. She's the great opponent here. And our Amanda Waller lady here imagines what she will do to her opponent. So even though the story is really fun to read, combining romanticism and eroticism with a straightforward spy story, the appealing factor, the incredible pulling factor here is the art. Guy Peellaert used as a model the singer or chanteuse Sylvie Vartan. You will see this most prominent because of this gap between her front teeth. Wonderful yet simple coloring, only using primary and secondary colors, with some flesh tones obviously, but it's so effective and hip and modern and groovy. It reminds a bit of the art of Barbarella, of course, and it was published by the same publisher who published Barbarella before. But this looks so much more radical, modern, I mean, I love my Barbarella comics, especially the colored versions of it. But this here was really something else. And you can see that Guy Peellaert had a huge impact, not only in terms of his art, but on advertisements, and he later on created his own fashion line with op art influences and fluxus elements. And it's all right there in this comic here. He was a guy overflowing with creativity. So this comic here and Pravda, the other comic that I will show you later on, these were the only real comics or longer comics that he did. And afterwards he worked for movies and, as I said, at fashion and other stuff. Now to the bonus section, and this is a real extensive bonus section, as you can see here, but every page is worth it, so no fillers in it. The first few pages take a look on Guy Peellaert from the perspective of an art historian, Pierre Sterckx. So you can see all the comparisons with Roy Lichtenstein and Tom Wesselmann and Andy Warhol, of course, and all the icons of pop art. Here's our man, Guy Peellaert. And here on the right-hand side, taking some photos. A foreword by his son, Orson Peellaert, saying that he was called by some the Michelangelo of Pop Art, which he said, no, I'm just a bastard. So, in a way that he mixes up a lot of stuff, I think. So, here you can see examples for this mixing up of different stuff, early advertisements from him, and paintings and collages. And here you can see the very first publication in French of Jodelle. And a photo, here's the writer, young Pierre Battier. And that's the publisher who published Barbarella before. Yeah, and here we have Sylvie Vartan in all her glory, including the gap between her front teeth. And this double page here, or triple page if you will, is another example of the excellence in fantagraphics bookmaking. Here we see the line drawing for one page of The Adventures of Jodelle, and here this translucent sheet showcases the marks for the coloring that Guy Peellaert delivered. So you can, this serves as an overlay, and here's the finished page with the coloring. So here we have different cover designs for Jodelle. This was the German one, the Italian one, and this was the American one here. They even erased the nipple here. It's taken from one panel, as you can see here. So, and the designs and artwork of The Adventures of Jodelle had a huge impact and was used and used again and again for different advertisements, cover illustrations of different kinds, or as a background for fashion shoots, as you can see here. And other artwork from Guy Peellaert for advertisements. And for album covers or cosmetic articles, I think these were never really produced, but France Gall posed for it, or was the model for this lady here. Somehow, because Serge Gainsbourg took a liking in France Gall, that old bastard. He worked for cinema, for the movies, in particular for a movie called Jeu de Massacre, The Killing Game, and did some paintings for that movie. In the movie, the female protagonist is a cartoonist here, but Guy Peellaert delivered the artwork that she allegedly did for the movie. So amazing use of colors and using his flat style in a very efficient manner. And here they have covered on a few pages the second big or long comic of Guy Peellaert, which is Pravda. And this was highly influential at the time. As you can see here, images from Pravda pop up in a lot of different movies and on posters, of course, and in advertisements, and so on and so on. And funny thing is here, I have this magazine-sized pamphlet from the German government way back then, educating the people about the mass medium comics. In particular, I think the parents, to tell them what all these funny books are all about that their kids read in their closed kids' rooms, a bit to give them some context and say, hey, it's okay, it's an art form, and it has a rich history, and so on and so on. But throughout this magazine here, the comics are all treated as just for kids, only for children. So it's a bit funny and ironic that they use a panel from a comic that is deliberately aimed at adults as the title picture here. And here it is, at least the German translation, published by Schünemann. I don't know if this publisher is still out there. And you can see here it is almost... for a second, when I read this book here, I thought, hey, this has to be sponsored by Coca-Cola, because they all... Every time they try to get a Coke, and in some pages it is the most important thing that these ladies here can get out of their life, to get a cool Coke. But it's not. It's really an art comic, and this is really made prominent by the choice of the introduction done by Peter Zadek, who was a very innovative and important director for German theater. So they were obviously pretty happy that he put out some sentences for this comic here, and did everything that they could spread these few sentences over the run of 2 pages here, so that they could put out on the cover here introduction by Peter Zadek. Guy Peellaert did later on a movie together with him, so they were creatively related in a way. Art-wise, Pravda is not less exceptional and amazing than The Adventures of Jodelle, maybe in places even more radical and decorative and fun. Story-wise, it has lost me a bit in places, or it is really superficial, and it doesn't try to be more than superficial and decorative in a way. Here we have, by the way, the panel that was used for the cover. You don't miss anything, I have to tell you, when you don't be able to read German, or maybe in the English version it's better and it's just a bad German translation. But what you can read here in the speech bubbles are really slogans, wannabe hipster lingo, done from a guy who was, even way back then in '68 when this comic was published, too old to write these kind of sentences here, just trying to be young and hip. But anyway, you have a blast just reading this comic without reading the words here. And I've shown you before the raft of the Medusa, this old Jericho painting, and the Asterix take on it. And this really looks a bit like this is another take on the Medusa theme here. Haven't realized this before. Fun nice book here. I hope Fantagraphics or some other publisher will do a republication of this one here as well. So back to the back matter of the Fantagraphics book here. We can see a documentation for an ambitious futuristic musical about women's rise to world domination in the year 2000. But the musical was done obviously in 1967. And he created some production design for a TV show with the Bee Gees, who were founded way back then. Didn't make their music any better, but hey, they looked better this way. And some other strange music video, I guess, for Serge Gainsbourg. And here we have the aforementioned cooperation with Peter Zadek, the German theater director, and here, in this case, the movie director, where he had done an anti-militarist satire called Der Pott, together with Guy Peellaert. I guess here you have some screenshots of that cooperation. And then we have some final comic strips that are very interesting because they document his experiments with incorporating photography into his panels. Amazing stuff that you really wish that he would have done more in the comics world and not so much in advertisement and fashion. But yeah, it's just because I'm egoistic. I want to have more of this fine comic art here. And here we have the overview about his career, and just to make it very clear how much this man has crammed into his life. So, amazing artist, amazing book, amazing comics. What can I show you more in one video? Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.